So around a week ago, I made a video covering a good collection of origin ideas for Technoblade. One of the origin concepts that I briefly went over for a short period of time was one known as the Piglin Warlord. Unfortunately, it was way too detailed and way too much information to come with it for me to actually give it a proper time of day in the actual video itself. Instead, I asked you guys to go check it out in the links down below. But today, I will correct that and actually go through it individually on its own video just to give it the time of day and have you guys like enjoy what it is without having to go over and read on the Reddit yourself. Instead, you get to listen to me talk about it to you. But before that, as always, I'd like to ask you guys to hit the subscribe button down below if you're new around here. There's a lot of new people checking out my channel right now, and there's a lot of you guys around. I'd highly appreciate it if you have been enjoying the content just to hit the button down below. It's always appreciated. And also hit the like button for the help in the algorithm. And also, if you want to submit some theories or origin ideas to me, just check my Twitter down in the description down below and just send it to me in a DM. I'll look at it in the future. Either way, let's go through the origin concept, the Piglin Warlord. This is version 3 of the concept, and there's actually been a playable version that's being constructed by people right now. So the Piglin Warlord is an ancient warriors of the blood god army. They now roam the overworld in search of a new purpose. The active power is Wizerk, or Wizazerk. By crushing a wither skull as a sacrament to the blood god, you are gifted with incredible strength. You gain the following effects for duration. Movement speed is increased by 40%, attacks inflict wither 2 for 5 seconds, you have 5 extra hearts, your primary ability key becomes a dash that also grants slow fall for 10 seconds. Kills in this state will increase the amount of time you have left in it depending on what you kill, i.e. chickens would not grant as much time as a player would, and when this state ends you are weakened by the loss of the energy, giving you weakness and slowness for 30 seconds. This ability has a 5-minute cooldown. Now quickly dissecting that idea there, the active power, it's definitely got some interesting ideas behind it, and it's definitely like one of those powers that has a bit of a powerful side of it and has a nice con to come with it after the fact. Essentially speaking, if you activate this in the middle of battle but fail to get any kills on anyone, you will be essentially screwed right after it runs out of cooldown, because you'll put it in a vulnerable place by being a lot slower than a normal person, and you're also unable to deal as much damage, making you pretty vulnerable to anyone who comes up to attack you if you fail to kill with the ability going. But the active power also rewards you for getting a collection of kills in a row, getting on a kill streak of sorts to allow you to continue to use the ability over and over and over again until you finally run out of that cooldown when you're no longer killing people as often. Running through the neutral things, we got foragers diet. Pigs, although omnivores, are foragers in the wild. Foods that are forage/farm, fish, berries, kelp, potatoes, honey, etc. restore 25% more hunger and saturation than they normally would. Foods that require active hunting or livestock raising, beef, chicken, stews, etc. provide absolutely no saturation whatsoever, but will still supply the regular hunger bar refillment. Essentially, saturation is what allows you to actually actively heal up when you fill your hunger bar up, as well as saturation provides like the extra benefit beforehand, pretty much resorting to a double hunger bar in a sort of way. Moving on to pros, we have hooved hands. When not holding anything in both hands, your fists act like stone swords with knockback 1. You also have piggyback. Other players can ride upon your shoulders, but this would require the Mob Origins mod to work. Iron stomach, you never get negative effects from eating food, essentially removing the hunger debuffs from both chicken and rotten flesh. And Piglin allies, which is currently extremely buggy to the creator, as well as it may be changed or potentially removed in the future, but all piglins are passive to you. Brutes, however, are only passive to you if you do not cause any form of trouble, which is essentially a beautifully, like, these aren't too overpowered pros, like they're nice, like good, decent pros, but they're not overkill pros that need very, very strong cons to counter them. As well as I kind of agree with the point where piglins are always passive to you, but piglin brutes aren't always accounted in that type of thing. For example, the King Pig origin also had the same thing where piglin brutes weren't counted underneath the same bracket as normal piglins, which personally speaking, I think that's a good idea and it should stay that way, like it works well that way for a reason. And piggyback, well, let's say if the end is actually available in the Origin SMP and Technoblade gets some wings as the Piglin Warlord, well, we'll be seeing some good old Technoplane, which will honestly be quite funny and interesting to watch happen in Origin SMP. Running through the cons, we've got Ancient Wage. Shields were not a part of your era of combat. Due to your lack of training with them, they break far more easily. Which, believe it or not, I far often prefer the fact that they break a little bit quicker for people who don't usually use them, moreover than you just being unable to use them whatsoever. But honestly speaking, I think the Ancient's Way con is kind of null and void because Technoblade doesn't even use shields in the first place that often. We also then have Anarchists. Villagers know what you did to the Piglin monarchy in the Nether. Their gossip levels will skyrocket skyrocket within your presence, making their prices extremely high. Iron golems also know you as a threat and will attack on sight. I'm assuming that when it comes down to this one here, that I believe that the gossip system, if you do work hard enough to do things to improve it like you would normally do in an average villager gossip settings, you can actively decrease your gossip levels in a certain village. Of course, like, I think the average villager will see you as a very far higher threat than normal. Like, your starting gossip level will be far higher than the average person in Minecraft. Essentially, like, you kill 2, 3, 4 villagers in front of these other villages. That's roughly how many you need to do to get the Iron Golem to start wanting to murder you and not care about your existence whatsoever. And hopefully the system is able to be just improved. You are able to spend the time in order to get the gossip levels to be improved upon the villages that you have in your house or within the village that you sit in or things along those lines, instead of being permanently stuck at extraordinarily high prices and Iron Golems killing you on sight. Moving into the last con, we've got the one known as Bloodlust. With the Blood God's blessing also came a curse. Your mind is haunted by voices demanding bloodshed. Going too long without killing things will cause them to become more prevalent and can cause nauseating headaches. Their hunger for blood also affects your own, with increasing levels of exhaustion the longer you go without killing. The voices only demand for earned blood, not the blood of the innocents. You can't just get rid of it by killing an animal farm. You need to kill hostiles or players in order to deal with the bloodlust. Honestly thinking, I do believe this is a really smart idea with having a massive counter to the massive con of a power-up. And considering it's a thing called the Blood God, there would be something weird with bloodlust happening in your body when you get given the Blood God's blessing, as well as it perfectly fits in and plays into how Technoblade's audience tends to go when they're live streaming by chanting blood for the Blood God and skulls for the Skull Throne in the chat, as amongst a bunch of other different quotes and pieces like that, as well as with the fact that Technoblade will often feed into it by chanting blood for the Blood God and killing for the Blood God and things along those lines. Another thing to add into is the creator of this ended up adding in a mention about the fact that the primary key outside of Berserk mode shows how much blood the voices demand with a particle effect. Now, an idea that I see shared by people in the comment section of this is the idea that, like, it's overall a really cool idea and cool concept, but the entire nausea part of the con may be a bit of a weird thing to have when Technoblade is live streaming, for example. Because that would be a thing that would ultimately be a detriment to the quality of the actual live stream itself, and the idea suggested by this person replying here is just the fact that he loses a heart for every 2 to 5 minutes that the bar was low for, with the maximum amount of hearts to lose being 7 hearts, leaving him at 3 total hearts until he actually does some killing again to increase it back up. Overall though, this concept and idea was a really well put together one and highly detailed in comparison to a majority of all the other ones. Hence the reason why I decided to make an entire video just dedicated to this one origin idea, in order to explore it and give it the time of day that I believe it personally deserves. Anyway, as I said at the start of the video, if you have any theory ideas or origin ideas that you want to send to me personally instead of using the comments section, you can also go check out my Twitter down below, and you can send me a DM, as I do look through my DM requests quite often at this point in time, so I'll definitely see it and I might use it in a video later on. Either way, I'm going back to the dark place which I once came, and if you did enjoy, smash the like button down below. Either ways, until next time guys, goodbye.